Hey everybody, welcome back to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal Slobeef, with me, of course, my good friend Jim.
Hey everybody.
My good friend Oren Ronan.
Good evening.
My good friend Rosella.
Hello everybody.
That's it. Listen, we're under the gun. Bottom of the ninth, something or other. Anyhow, let's talk about digital artwork and the bullshit of No, all right, let's talk about Great Ace Attorney. What the heck happened? It's case 3. It's part 2.
It's the final trial of case 3. Yes,
that's right. Yes,
which is surprisingly not that much about the actual case, but more about proving the people had alibis, or not alibis. People had motives to do it.
This isn't a complex solution really at all. I thought there was going to be this giant explosion stuff, and it's going to turn out to be nothing.
Everyone knows how it was done, except for one small part which we have to prove. But other than that, it's just proving that they actually had a reason to do what they did.
Yeah.
The first thing that we start off with is, we're in the waiting room, and Sholmes is here, and it's like, oh hey, thanks.
Oh yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
He woke up this time. Well, Iris woke him up.
Beat him awake.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And he wants credit for it too.
Yeah. No, like we're just like, oh hey, no, it's nice to see you here, and we kind of move on, like talk to our client, start going over stuff, and he's like, excuse me, it is the ungodly hour of 9 a.m, and I am here to support you, which I really feel as a game developer.
No, agreed.
But yeah, it turns out. I think Iris had to like pour some tea on him
yeah.
to get him up, which I also feel.
I used to feel, but all right, I'm gonna try to pull up my PlayStation movie gallery, which takes me forever to do. So if you
Yeah, well, the significant thing that happened is that Gregson shows up again, gives us another helpful piece of evidence, which he does a lot lately, I think.
And this is right after, so at the end of the last portion of the reading, during the end of the investigation, is when the Dr. Scythe kind of steps on everybody's toes and yells at Gregson for allowing anybody to be in there. And Gregson kind of just has to swallow it. And so immediately Gregson shows up giving the autopsy report from 10 years ago, in the professor trial.
Yeah, which at this point really has nothing to do with the trial we're currently working on. So why? Well, he probably knows something that we don't, which is why.
Yeah, exactly. But you can but in the way he's phrasing it, you can tell he's doing this and knows he's not supposed to be doing it and doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. Sholmes also knows that something's going to go on because he tells us that if there's going to be something remaining that we're not sure about, then we should pursue it to the end.
That's right.
Yeah. Which means pursuing it, even if we think, even if we accomplish what we're here to do, which is the trial,
Even if it makes us a bad lawyer to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trial starts, right?
Yeah, and the masked assistant is there. For Van Zix.
Yes.
He doesn't do much during the trial except for opening Van Zix bottles.
Yeah.
He sabers open the wine bottles.
That is pretty cool, though. Yeah.
It's good animation, and he does it with a very he's using a more Western sword, but wields it like a katana. Like sort of has it.
That mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like we don't know who this person is.
Speaking of me taking exactly one law class and now just living with it for the rest of my life. Both the prosecution and the defense give actually like very realistic opening statements that are like, hey, like over the course of this trial, I intend to prove that that Enoch Drebber and Odie Asman are working together. That Enoch Drebber was working behind the professor's back with I think with Odie Asman, but whatever, he ended up dead anyway. But like that this whole thing was Drebber's idea, and we'll prove that it was his idea. The professor had nothing to do with it, and that's how Asman ended up dead, and that's what we're going to prove over the course of the trial, which is like a perfectly reasonable opening statement, which never happens.
Right.
I think the judge acknowledges it. He's like, "Well, thank you, prosecutor and defense attorney, for stating in clear terms what's going to happen here." Okay, that's all we're gonna do, folks. This is the one you get, and then we're moving on.
Maybe we should make note of this for other trials in the future. Oh, where's my pen? Anyway, I'm sure I'll remember.
Haven't invented the pen yet. Crap.
Ooh. Let's see here.
We get a photo of the experimentation stage post-explosion, which clearly shows that there's like an opening.
Yeah, there's a false bottom there. Like, it's clear. There's a giant hole right there.
Let's see. So Drebber is called to the stand to testify. And he says he met Harebrain a year ago. He got the blueprints to he engineered the blueprints to exact specification. Said there is no trick, and if there was a trick, there would have to be a double, and no, there is not one. And all the spectators saw the birdcage appear, and maybe the science on it was built was flawed somehow.
Yeah, they established right now that Asman does not have a twin brother, so that's one theory out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the first problem is that he says that the cage crashed down headfirst.
Yep.
But the cage that we saw had some cracks on the bottom.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And as soon as you go in and examine the evidence, you see that's where it's highlighted. There's definitely on the bottom.
Yeah. And I think he counters on this, like, yeah, but like there's nowhere for it to fall or anything. It's on a stage. Like, how would it have gotten damaged that way, right? And then, of course, we point out
that big freaking hole in the stage. Look at that. That's how fall. Haven't fallen in there.
Yeah. So how about that? To which she goes, So the only way this works is that there's two bird cages, one which fell through the opening in the stage, and then the other that ended up in the Crystal Tower somehow.
Yeah, but it also tells us that the one that fell from the stage ended up on the Crystal Tower later, though, because that's the one with the cracks on the bottom.
Ah, okay. Oh, you're right. Yeah. So, but then this is pretty serendipitous for the prosecution. It turns out, though, there was a contract that Osman had with Drebber, I think, right? That was basically like, we're gonna, Osman's gonna pay Drebber for this, and this contract for the payment only works if, I can't think of the legal term they used, if they're both alive. So, that means like. Yeah, there's no motive, basically, because if Drebber killed Osman, then he was going to lose all the money,
Yeah, he has an anti-motive.
Yeah.
Right.
He's entitled to 30% of the grant that they would get for this being successful.
Exactly. And also, like, again, they point out, like, there's no way for him to have, like, done the swap, by himself, to which we say that, like, he must have had an accomplice. And then Von Zieks is like, oh, yeah? He has an accomplice? Name the accomplice. And then we're like, okay, I will. And I took a couple guesses on this one, but it is in fact pretty obvious, I guess. It's Dr. Courtney Scythe is who we name as the accomplice,
because we know that she and her team were the only ones allowed even to look at the body when in the Crystal Tower.
Right.
And that autopsy report has her name on it.
Mm-hmm. And this is where we get into, like, okay, hold up a sec. You are accusing a member of Scotland Yard, again, of, malfeasance here, so you better be careful.
And this is also where we have the theory that what was in the cage, that it was in the balloon, was the wax statue that was stolen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's right. That he had the wax statue in the balloon. He blows it up with the,
with the dart.
The thank you, the crossbow, the bolt and all that.
Which everyone points out, like, this wax statue looks nothing like the dude. It's in this weird pose because it's coming out of a grave. It's got a weird mask on. Like, it's
a different build. Like, they're just shaped differently as people.
It makes literally no sense that this would be the case.
It's riding a horse. It's right. It's horribly disfigured, but no, I'm kidding. But yeah, this is maybe not Ryunosuke's most convincing argument right now.
But I mean, it did go missing. Drebber does have the head, and it did return immediately after the crime, so there's some pretty convincing circumstantial evidence, but again, it comes back to the fact that we don't have any of the whys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now everyone's angry about us for making like all these baseless accusations.
Mm-hmm. And one of the jurors, who is like an old cop, is basically like, I've known Courtney Scythe, I think, for a long time, and this is like obscene that you'd accuse her of anything like this, right? So
yeah, the jurors at this point decide to vote guilty, and we have to do the what is it called?
Summation examination.
Yeah, summation examination. And yeah, juror number 6 is, even though he's the last on the stand, is the first to pipe up during that.
Yep.
So we're getting them out of order.
Yeah. I think Ryunosuke even comments on that as like interesting or odd or whatever. So yeah, let's see. He does that, and then basically it's kind of the only other one is like juror number 3 says that like he's had his own problems with the members with police, you know,
which is always fun for me because like in these summation examinations, the judge always orders them to state the reason why they're saying guilty or innocent. And one person will always be like, potatoes. I don't like potatoes. Like,
yeah.
It's like this total non sequiturs.
And that's always like the critical thing. So once we get them talking about potatoes, that unlocks the whole trial.
and then Ryunosuke is like, we're supposed to be studying from you? But then let's see here.
Yeah, so that's get juror number 6 filed out because he's a cop and he doesn't like being accused of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Although he doesn't really dispute it.
Yeah.
He just says it was better in the old days.
Yeah, that's what he usually says. That's when he slips up and calls her by her maiden name, so that's how we learn that she used to be, what is it in English, Courtney Stevens?
Courtney Stevens, yep.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned it on this episode. But the coroner's report from the professor case, it basically just says, yes, professor confirmed death by, like, a confirmed execution by hanging at midnight, signed, Dr. Courtney Stevens.
Yeah, it has some redacted parts.
The name is redacted and says codename the professor.
Yeah. So it's Stevens in English. In Japanese, it's Courtney Simon. I think the only reason they changed it because Simon is not much of a family name, actually.
Yeah, but it's not like unheard of. You know what I mean?
Paul Simon's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason I think why they changed it. There's no real reason.
The only other thing I think of is like maybe they thought Simon already sounded a little bit like Scythe but yeah, it's whatever. The only thing is that they did. That's all we,
Yeah. We need to know her maiden name because that way we prove that there's a connection between the professor and Courtney Scythe, which connects her to this case also somehow. But remember, jurors,
we were trying to prove that the waxwork, must have been used specifically, so it must have meant something to her, I guess. And it's like, but there's no connection between, Dr. Scythe and the professor. So that obviously is a terrible argument, and you're a terrible lawyer. And so I think we get to play that against.
Right. You can say, I am a terrible lawyer, but this is an okay argument.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the other thing we need to show is that the waxwork statue had a connection to the Crystal Tower, so we saw the piece of broken glass that we found on it.
Yeah, so the science man is just like, I don't know, if you had evidence, I would be convinced, but you don't seem to. Mm-hmm. So we present him evidence, and then he's like, oh, well, yeah, okay, I am in fact convinced that this waxwork was on the Crystal Tower. Mm-hmm. And then we can pit him against someone else.
Number 5, the Colonel Cobb girl.
I hate her so much.
She doesn't really do anything.
No.
No.
And even in this, like, there's no personality. She's just like, you need the right evidence. And then as soon as 4 says that, she's like, well, he's smarter than I am, so okay.
But like, there's a point if you try to press her where she says this terrible thing like, nibble, nobble, guilty, bobble, nibble, bot, like, not guilty.
Oh my god, and she repeats it like 8 times.
Yeah.
Like, you're trapped in this dialogue box with her. and her corn.
It's like one of those things, like, even though it's not voiced, it's just like painful for somehow, you know, like, I hate it. An awful fucking, this is like Shoot Takami's like one character I can't stand. Takumi, excuse me. Like, I hate corn girl so much.
I'm with you.
But all right, what happens then? So yeah, all right, so that I think that gets us all our jurors, right?
Yeah.
So we can go on to the next part of the trial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now we need to get Courtney Size into the court, so we get to take a break.
Yeah. That's a recess.
Aren't we actually trying to get 2 spells into court?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
wait, she isn't right.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the wax figure, since that's apparently important?
Yeah.
But like while we're in the waiting room, Courtney comes up to us as like, so just so you know, you won't get me to testify. Like I'm untouchable. Strongheart has forbidden it. So like, don't even think about it. Also, you're dealing with stuff you don't understand, so leave it alone. But even if you try, it won't matter because you can't get me on the stand.
Which seems like that would immediately undermine the prosecution's case. If you could tie her pretty distinctly to this and she just refuses to take the stand, it'd be like, well, then the case is just falling apart.
Yeah. I mean, even like, well, you know, yeah, like if you're not going to allow this to happen, I mean, at least drop the charges against, you know, like.
Yeah.
Well, Sholmes also seems to know her because he knows everyone. This is a localization change, though. In Japanese, when Sholmes and Courtney Size talk, Sholmes calls her just by her maiden name. He says, oh, it's Courtney Simon. And in English, they change it to say, like, he also uses her current name.
Yeah. He says Sidney Stevens.
Yeah, Sholmes also, he says like, oh, I purchased some caramel earlier, so I'll snack on that. And he shows like his own brand of caramel that he used to imprint a key before. So I spent the entire rest of the trial being like, what key is he, like, what is he trying to steal?
But no, he's just eating.
Yeah, I guess he's just eating a bar of caramel.
It's still caramel, you can eat it, yes.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's no reason not to use a delicious caramel to form plaster for things for keys, you know?
He probably like secretly hopes there's no fingerprinting or anything to be done in a case, you know? It's like, oh, I can't let the caramel go. It's going to spoil.
Man, do you think the other, like, all those substances that we were spraying, do you think those were also edible?
I mean, they must have been.
Yeah, like if you don't have to use it to detect the color of blood, you can just chug it. It tastes like lemon lime.
It turns out he would have been a better confectioner, but, you know, unfortunately he chose to be a detective. So what can you do?
We could solve all crime is what we can do.
Sherlock Holmes, confectionery detective. It almost works. Not quite.
It's the world's foremost consultant confectioner.
There's a fan fiction in here, I know it.
Yeah.
Eliminate the calories and whatever. All right, anyway, sorry. All right, so,
Yeah, so they can't have Courtney Size on the stand right now, so they bring in 2 spells to
it's close enough.
Comment about the wax figures. Yeah, for some reason, it's not. I don't really understand why she's testifying, but she is.
I mean, she can at least testify as to the timeline for, for the waxwork disappearing and then coming back.
Yeah, but she's not testifying about that. She's testifying about what happened 10 years ago.
So I genuinely, by the way, like, I have no, like, I'm imagining, like, someone asking, like, Strongheart, like, how does this, like, protect the conspiracy? You know, and he's like, I don't know. I'm out of tricks, honestly. I'm sorry. Just bring up the wax lady.
Yeah, if you were going to ban anybody from testifying, it would be the person who's going to tie this directly to what happened 10 years ago, the thing that you're trying to keep an ultimate secret.
Can we bring that guy back from Japan who keeps attempting to murder people and getting off? I mean, I don't know. Just somebody. Why not? You know.
So I think this is where they show that the statue is actually in the middle of the courtroom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
like
right.
The whole statue, like grave and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Which is wild and pertinent. It'll turn out, but you know.
Yeah, they need it here for the dramatic scene later, so that's why they
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, our argument is okay, so his build doesn't look anything like it, and with the mask on, he doesn't look anything like it, but maybe with the mask off, he looks a lot like our victim, and therefore our idea is good. Which is bad logic, even if the premise weren't true. Which it isn't, by the way. But she's like, well, the visage underneath the mask is accurate, and I do know who it is, even though this is a closely guarded state secret. But I'm not going to unlock it because, well, frankly, because it doesn't matter. But yeah, so
Van Zix and the judge can't believe that she actually could get the likeness of the actual person in there. Because, how could she? Because it was a secret.
We really only have her word for it that this is the case. But,
right.
But yeah, her whole testimony is just her insisting.
And she tells us how she broke the law 10 years ago, and
she's proud of it. It's a family tradition to break the law and take plaster casts of actual corpses to make your waxwork out of.
Ideally, precisely 3 hours after they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she basically bribed the gravedigger who let her in, and she dug the corpse out of the grave and made the wax. And did what she had to do.
Right. Not had to is a little strong, but yeah, she did something. Yeah.
It was what? It was like in accordance with Two Spells family principles or something.
Yeah, because apparently their beginning, which is I think ties into the actual Madame Tussauds with around the time of the French Revolution, they took a cast of they made their wax thing off of actual Marie Antoinette's face, which was always like just sort of a rumor that followed the Tussauds. I don't know that it's accurate at all, but that's where they're getting sort of the origin of this story that she just admits to. Like, yeah, that's what my family did.
I'll say it. Let's hope not. Not a big, not standing Marie Antoinette there. Just saying,
Grave robbing isn't that great, but it turns out there's more than one grave robber in the courtroom today. So
the she says that the taking the cast took longer than it was supposed to because like usually she likes to take casts exactly 3 hours once rigor mortis is set in, because rigor mortis starts at the jaw. And so once the jaw is set, it's really easy to take a good cast. I guess pro tips for any aspiring grave diggers, grave robbers,
right? Grave
casters.
Visual Novel Book Club does not endorse grave casting.
Unless you want to sponsor the podcast, and then we can think about it.
Now we're reading from our sponsor. Shit. Damn it. Corn Girls grave casting.
No. So she insists that that the jaw was still soft, so that that rigor mortis had yet to set in. It hadn't been 3 hours, or I guess technically it could have been like way more than that, but we're focusing very much on the it had not yet been 3 hours. And she also says that she was able to complete her cast like right before dawn.
So the professor was supposedly hanged at midnight, and now this says, it didn't. That timeline is off.
That doesn't work.
But it doesn't. Again, that doesn't matter for this trial at all.
Yeah,
right. Except to show Courtney Scythe is a lying person.
Yeah, I can just imagine like Hairbrain is just off, just continuing to write his autobiography, like just kind of waiting to see if he's ever necessary or relevant.
You're done here, Hair.
So we also get a newspaper at this point from 10 years ago with the article about Drebber seeing the professor resurrect. And of course, it has one thing that if you're an Ace Attorney veteran, you immediately spot, but that isn't going to come up for a long while.
Oh, yeah, wait, I forgot what it was, though.
Oddly, the important thing actually is on the front page. Like, it's on the article that you're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah, but there's one detail there that's like, I immediately saw, and it doesn't come up for a while. But right now we just needed to show that the professor was actually hanged at midnight because Drebber saw him resurrect at like, what, 2 a.m. or something like that? Or 1 a.m.?
I don't think it's given a time, but
It's after the official time, yeah.
somewhere between midnight and dawn.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing about the article, that if you read it, it says that like he rose from the grave and then was immediately shot.
Yeah.
By someone, the gravekeeper, presumably. But
yeah, the article says that like Enoch Drebber was at the graveyard. He's a science student who was at the graveyard, and he was shocked when he saw the corpse rise up from the grave. And then, before he could scream, a shot rang out from behind him and shot the corpse, the newly risen corpse, who fell back into the grave. And then Enoch Drebber screamed and ran away.
Yeah.
and then all his hair turned white.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't know who shot the gun, but someone shot a gun at the corpse.
The biggest coward in all of Victorian England, Enoch Drebber.
Yep.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be scary, but come on.
Now it's time for him to testify.
First of all, I did not scream.
Yeah, he points out that he doesn't admit why he's there right away. He just says he was there for a spot of moonlighting, he admits that everything in the paper is based on what he saw, and then he admits that he never actually saw the professor. That the person he saw could have been anyone wearing the mask.
He says that he thinks the person was. I think we do press him on what exactly he means by moonlighting, and he's like, I was grave robbing. Okay, I take the freshly deceased corpse, and I sell them to universities or what have you, just to make cash to try to survive as a college student.
So apparently, this is based on something that actually happened in London at that time. It was an actual phenomenon. People grave robbed and sold them to medical institutions.
Mm-hmm. and before it was supposed to be people who were sort of not the people who this was without the consent of the people who were doing this stuff. It was people like sort of the unknowns and people who they could identify would go to institutions. And in this case, I don't even know if there was like donating your body to science. It was more just if some rando died and no one knew who he was or claimed him, then the institutions could get him. But because they needed to do all this scientific experimentation, there was such a shortage of it. They'd pay for him.
Yeah, and I think in the English version of the game, they actually reference the actual people who did it because they were called the Resurrectionists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they call him a couple names. Like one of them calls him something that's like, no, we call ourselves like the Resurrectionists or one or the other.
Everyone else calls us assholes, but we're actually the really cool Resurrectionist Club TM. No, you can't join.
Yeah, in Japanese, they made up a name for it, which is actually really cool because it's a name in English, but they didn't use it. So Drebber says that they call themselves the Soul Resellers.
Whoa.
Soul Resellers? Wow.
That is super cool.
Okay, so other than that, he also says that after that happened, Madame Tuspels came to him and took his own figure to make a wax statue. That's the one that's still there in the display.
Mm-hmm.
And that also the entire ordeal was what caused him to give up his dream of becoming a scientist.
Yeah, because once you're out as a grave digger, a lot of the science people are like, yeah, not so much. Grave robber, I mean.
Even though they're buying it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the med students, but it's a closed secret right now.
But he also says that since he had put his grave robbing days behind him, he sold the actual exact camera that he had used. I don't know why he had a camera with him while he was grave robbing. Not the point. But he did, and he sold that exact camera to Madame Tuspels, since he wouldn't need it anymore. So that's why the prop camera from the from the scene that we took and put into evidence turns out is actually evidence retroactively.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you examine it, there's a blood stain on there.
Yeah. The first thing we had to do it here actually took me a little while to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
We have to show the 10-year-old article. I didn't really understand why it was relevant because it was just an article. And if he now says that he didn't actually see the professor, how is this contradictory? But the thing is that how would he know that the professor had an iron mask on? Because that was never publicized.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me. It took me a little while because you're right. It's not in the text. It isn't so clear a discrepancy. You have to sort of say like, oh, the existence of the text is the.
Yeah, I think the description might say that like the illustration was made based on the description that Enoch Drebber gave.
Right. It's like and the thing is that, and we haven't gotten there, but there's a much more compelling part of like evidence also associated with the article, which is like one of those like, and that's not for here. That's good. They're going to bring that up soon. You know what I mean? And I can't wait for them to do it. But it turns out this is one of those pieces of evidence you can use for multiple things, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, and looking just at something we skipped before, but just to sort of frame what's going on here, because this trial's weird in that it's more chasing down the truth than battling with Von Zieks. And in the first half, there's like a moment where Renosuke says something like, I feel like, or like, it feels like it's not, it's like, if you're going to pursue this path, you better get it right. Like Von Zieks wants him, like it's you if you're going to, go after all these people, you better do it the right way and not the wrong way, because this has to be exposed the right way. And so that's sort of the framework of this whole thing. Is like you feel like he wants this to go down. He just doesn't want you to fuck up when you reveal all these truths.
Right, yeah. Like, yeah, Von Zieks isn't helping you per se, but he's also not like fighting against what you're doing.
He really isn't. He's just letting you go down these paths and which really aren't relevant to all this stuff, but it's just sort of like, okay, we want it all out there, so if you're going to do it the right way, then he's going to let you do it. And
it makes sense that, like, he kind of wants some truth to get out, because, again, like, the professor murdered his brother, so to me, it certainly made sense that he doesn't like the idea of all this, like, hiding and secrecy. So, getting all this out in the open seems to be within his brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, not a Drebber fan. Really wants to embarrass him, but that's like kind of like an extra credit thing. Anyway,
he also likes that this trial is going further and further away from his friend.
Yeah.
It's like, just keep talking about whatever this bullshit is.
Yeah, honestly, this is just win for Von Zieks,
So after the camera stain is established, then you see clearly Trevor's lying about stuff. So like, why is he lying? He's protecting someone. Who is it? It's Courtney Scythe.
Mm-hmm. I thought because they were brother and sister, which I guess I'm spoiling is not the case.
I was thinking the same thing. Because they're pretty close in art, if not the way they behave.
Yeah, they look kind of exactly. Yeah, they have like some kind of resemblance. You think, although the white hair probably helps a lot.
Yeah.
So now we're back to why did he has no motive for killing Asman. And that's where we show the newspaper, the picture in the newspaper has an autograph on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Asman's autograph, as we also can see on the contract.
It's like, a signature, as an artist would do. Yep.
Yeah.
And done. And it's, by the way, it's very obvious. It's like one of those things you see it and you're like, we're not going to bring this up until, all right, fine. Yeah. So.
And then you had to prove this one. I was like, what? And then the reason why the science trophy is in there is because you have to prove why this whole thing, like why would this ruin his career, make a difference? And he denies it. I wasn't trying hard to be a scientist anyway. He's like, well, look, you had the trophy. You were clearly trying to be a scientist. This is this is why this is happening. And then as Courtney Scythe just jumps in to admit stuff, like just basically ends the trial at this point.
Well, didn't we have to like go like jump through at least like one hoop to get her, because we do get Courtney on the stand.
Oh yeah.
And like Von Zieks is like, yeah, okay, that's fine. And Judge, sorry, excuse, like you know that Strongheart said that we absolutely should not do this under any circumstances. And Von Zieks is like, well, yeah, but I'm the prosecutor and it's my trial, so
You see that guy anywhere here? Not me neither. Leave it up there.
Yeah, I also feel like we had to do something before she confesses, but I played this like 2 days ago and I don't remember, and looking at the walkthrough now, it seems like it jumps directly into her confessing.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, no, that's the thing. And she confesses to something like kind of too easy. Like she's like, all right, fine. I switched the body. Oh, I know what it is. She does jump in to confess because she's like, you got, and once Van Zeke's allowed, it's like, you got it. I switched the bodies. That's it. Case closed. And you get this like kind of like, is that really it? Like, should I stop here? Like, I basically won, you know?
Yeah, the judge even says like, I'm ready to adjudicate, and I'm gonna be adjudicating not guilty.
Right. If, and it's kind of like, I had some pause here because, like, I mean, you know, the right answer is, you know, no, we're supposed to do it. But I'm almost like, is there some kind of like trick here? Like, is this why Von Zeke's playing along? Like, what's happening? You know, but indeed, we're like, no, you know what? Not going to take the win just yet. We're going to keep going.
Yeah. She does tell us a little bit about, well, I think what we forgot is that why would she cooperate? And the reason is that if everything that we've learned so far was true, it means that the professor was not executed.
Right.
When he rose from the grave, he was still alive, and then he was shot, and that's when he was killed. But he was buried alive, basically, which means that Courtney Stevens, at the time, lied in a report.
Right.
So that's the secret she's trying to keep. So she does say that the reason she cooperated was that she came up to see what happened, and she saw the wax statue of the professor and had a note on it that said that if she doesn't want anyone to know what happened 10 years ago, she should cooperate, and that's why she did it.
Right. Yeah, she's protecting the judiciary. That's what she's doing.
Yep. Sure.
She said that if everyone finds out that 10 years ago they lied about executing the professor, which was a very notorious figure, and then it would be the entirety of Scotland Yard would be shamed.
I mean, it was really only a lie for a couple hours.
You know, as you do, a little white, this person's not dead actually kind of lie, you know, as you do.
Well, presumably, we don't know why they didn't kill him just yet, but presumably they meant for him to escape.
Mm-hmm.
They meant to fake executing him, and then when he rose from the grave, he was actually supposed to escape, but someone shot him instead.
Okay, but there's no way Drebber could know all of that.
No.
No. I think he's just like kind of a wrong place, wrong type kind of person.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, honestly.
They don't super clarify like what exactly the note said to do. It's basically like, the note told me to cover up the crime, and so I did it.
Yeah.
But they don't really exactly clarify what all those things are.
It's pretty wacky because like she admits at one point too, I think like I kind of needed a couple of people I could trust to be in on this, you know, because it can't just be her, because she has to like switch or lie about switching the bodies, because in Crystal Tower with that Kurt Birdcage, she's presumably come upon a wax figure of the professor who's in like a metal helmet. Meanwhile, the actual dead body is under the experimentation stage, and there's like a crowd and everything. She's going to need like multiple people to cover the wax figure as if it were a body, bring it, you know what I mean? Like do like a lot of coordination and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Which again, they attest to, but...
There's even a photo of the body, so I think they needed to bring the body to the Crystal Tower to do the photo op.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this is all predicated on the fact that the law existed... That this team can have complete control over the entire crime scene, not just one area, but of both areas, and that no one else is going to see it.
They're getting good performance reviews, I gotta tell you. But, you know, so like, yeah, so that's kind of how it all seems to go, you know, but something's wrong, and we know that something's wrong, and it has something to do with Osmond's body.
So like part of the directions was eventually comes out is like make it look like Hairbrain did it. So we need a different cause of death, because right now he died because he broke some bones on the way down. He had a broken vertebrae. Right. And so we need it to be a method of death that would link it to Hairbrain and not to anyone else.
Right.
And so, what Courtney takes this as is to stab him with, Hairbrain's signature screwdriver that he has named. And
right, Albert.
Yeah, Albert. Well, no, wait, Albert is his name. Alexander?
Oh, Andrew.
Andrew. That sounds
Andrew,
good.
Yeah.
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 So to stab him with the signature, the signature screwdriver, and then to write that that's the cause of death.
Yeah, and she says that she went down under the stage, and she found the cage with the body in it, like lying down, and she took the screwdriver and just stabbed him in the chest. And I also did. I didn't see the contradiction here straight away. It took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this took me a while too.
Yep.
This is a difficult one. The problem is that the photo of the victim that we have shows the blood from the wound dripping down, as in towards the body's lower half. Which, if they were stabbed when they were lying down in a coffin, wouldn't have happened.
Right. And I think this is a cool, actually, twist on this case, because at this point you're like, okay, I think I've got all of it, and we're just doing the usual dance around stuff. But it turns out there's one final thing to it, which is that they figured out the reason this actually happened, of course, is that not that she stabbed him with a downward motion, as she said, into a lying down body, but in fact, he survived the fall, started to get back up, and she realized her window of keeping the professor's death a secret was closing really fast. So she had to finish the job and stab him, which is, wow, lady, damn.
We still have to prove why she did it, because everyone says that, well, stabbing a dead body is one thing, but she wouldn't have just killed the man, even if she was being blackmailed. So we do have to find one more reason for her to want Asmund dead.
And before the game actually fully prompts you, I was looking through all my court records stuff. I'm like, I have no idea what they're talking about. Just looking through all my evidence and finding absolutely no reason.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a reach, I think.
Yeah.
It made sense to me once it actually happened, because it gives you a multiple choice. And one of the answers is the Iron Mask. I forget what the middle answer is, but the correct answer is the scalpels.
Yeah. That she ordered all the scalpels. Oh yeah, it's she had what was it again?
It was 500 scalpels a month.
It was a front. That was the way that she was paying a bribe to Asmund for years.
That's right, yeah.
By pretending to buy scalpels.
I think the blackmail would have been enough.
And that's because now we know that Asmund wrote that newspaper article years ago. So he also figured out that the professor wasn't dead when he was buried. So he blackmailed her for years. Not to reveal that she lied in her report.
Oh, brother.
And now she had an opportunity to kill him, so she did.
Yep.
I feel like she had a lot of opportunity. I mean, she is the freaking coroner of Scotland Yard. You know what I mean? You just kill him and lie. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's fine. I think the blackmail motive would have been enough personally, but you know what I mean? It's okay, fine, I'm going along with this blackmail plan. Oh shit, this guy's still alive. I know that maybe murder isn't the first thing you do in a panic, but I'm just saying I'd buy it. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. So
that basically wraps up the case.
Yeah, so now Courtney Scythe is locked up not just for assisting with the murder, but for actually murdering someone.
Mm-hmm.
And Drebber also confesses everything.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we didn't know until now is that basically Asmund came to him because, but he didn't remember who he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just, at this point, Drebber's sort of established as this, conjurer, scientist, con man. So that's who he goes to help out.
Yeah, but Drebber immediately recognizes him and planned his murder case. But he was just as surprised to learn that Courtney Scythe was the one who actually murdered Asmund. We thought he did.
correct me if I'm wrong if this happens now or later too, but there's also like kind of a speech Trevor gives, because it's something on the order of like, you know, why would you like care about like, or like, you know, about framing Hairbrain, or why you wouldn't like Hairbrain or something. He's kind of like, he's a garbage scientist.
Yeah.
Like he's a total idiot.
And he talks about like the vanity of these kind of guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, I mean, teleportation, like that's fucking ridiculous. He has like no business being here. It's like, it's really, yeah.
But then we point out that he's been
Later,
he was going to steal Hairbrain's dreams, just like someone stole his 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Right. You just think about that, and he just kind of looks down like, oh, I guess I didn't.
He does like the sad Charlie Brown walk.
But yeah, that's it for the trial.
Yeah.
Not the chapter though. Not the episode.
No.
No, we get one and a half more scenes.
Right. Yeah, this was a long kind of ending, but we the events, whatever. We have our usual sort of wrap up kind of thing where, you know, Hairbrain's like, I guess I was a terrible scientist after all. And you're like, no, you were a king because you tried or something, you know, like you believed in your dream, you kept going with it. You're really good, even though teleportation is not a thing, you know, whatever. But
When Fix shows up.
That's right. He's like, I'm making sure you're going back to Germany. You're not going to stay for the science symposium, you know. And we figure that he's worried that the Reaper is gonna act, and that's why he's like personally taking him back, because it seems like the Reaper doesn't act outside the country.
Yeah, he kind of figures out by now that maybe people who aren't actually guilty aren't getting killed, because Gina is an example. But he's not going to take any chances, so he just tells Hairbrain to go back home.
Yeah,
right.
Hairbrain still doesn't call him Barry. That's all I want. It doesn't happen. And now he's gone to Germany. We're never going to see him again.
Yeah.
Well, he might be a juror in an upcoming episode. We don't know yet. You know, it seems to be.
We're probably going to see him during the credits also.
Yeah. And so then when you think it's all done, Von Ziegler is like, no, we're not done yet. There's still more stuff to find out here. We should go back into the courtroom.
Yeah, I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes, which...
I know.
I'll be right there.
I guess you'll bring the wine. So yeah, we go back in, and this is a voice acted scene.
Yeah,
like it's all anime. Yeah, which I was surprised at.
It's animated in game. But
I didn't watch this in English. How is the English voice acting? Because I heard people said that when they start doing these longer scenes, that's where the English cast kind of doesn't work as well. So not very good.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about them. They're fine. They're fine.
Me neither.
But they're nothing special.
The Japanese dub is very good. Japanese dub I really like.
I don't particularly like Ryunosuke's like voice, because he speaks with like kind of a British accent, and I just don't really dig it. And I don't know, like I imagine it's like Von Ziegler's voice isn't really what I imagined it to be, which I know is a bad reason to like judge, you know, voice acting, but like it just, I don't know, it didn't work for me. It didn't seem right.
Yeah, but first, Von Ziegler tells us why he hates Japanese people.
Right, which is Japanese person killed my brother.
Well, it tells us the entire story. So 16 years ago, when he was just still a kid, his brother brought home 3 students from Japan. One of them was Sato's father.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that the other one is the judge, right?
Yep.
So we know 2 out of the 3. Sasato's father and Judge, who has a name that I don't remember.
Jigoku. It means hell.
Right.
I think I point that out every single episode, but I will continue to do so.
It's a good fact.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 years later, when the professor killed a lot of people and Von Ziegler's brother tried to find out who it was and couldn't because he was hiding in plain sight. But when they did finally caught him after he killed Von Ziegler's brother, turned up it was a Japanese person. And the third student who they were friends with.
And he reveals this because he has the key, and he takes off the iron mask on the wax sculpture, and there it is. So this is a Japanese, one of the Japanese students.
Yeah, he looks Japanese. He has a little mustache.
Yeah, and while Renowski doesn't know who it is. Sasato's like, oh, that looks like somebody I know. I have a feeling that I know this person. And then the assistant in the mask just screams. And, there's real dramatic revelation as like the person says, my father, or I think it's what he says, is my father. And he slowly comes out, slowly takes the mask off. And of course it is Kazuma. And now his memory's back. He knows who this is. And he sort of reveals himself, and he thanks Sasato for everything that she's done in sort of helping to get his friend this far. And Ryunosuke for sort of following through on this dream. And Ryunosuke is like, I knew you could never be dead. And my first thought was like, why did you never mention that before? You never said you didn't think he would be dead before.
The scene is really cute. I think it's really well animated. Like, we get a lot of canned animations as is a standard operating procedure for a Phoenix, right? Or I guess an Ace Attorney. But like I feel like the animations in this scene are really good. Just showing this it's very touching, the reunion between the two of them. There's some subtle facial expressions. So it's a really good looking scene. Even if I agree that the voice acting just doesn't feel quite right.
It's not like awful or anything. It's just it's off for some reason.
It feels like just very sort of theatrical kind of, really just sort of like very straight reading. With just people who have good English accents, that's it.
Yeah.
The same thing with Von Zieks. Like, there's not a lot of character put into the voice. It's just sort of like, oh, well, this guy's supposed to be, sort of upper class, and that's all it is. It's not really, it may be a little villainous, but that's about it. Like, it's sort of, like there's no miserable pile of secrets certainly put into that performance.
A shame, really, because that really would have helped, I think.
It would have.
But, yes.
Well, Naruto gives Karuma back to Asogi.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a sword anymore.
Ooh.
And also now Kazuma has two swords, which just seems like too much.
And the best is that all he does is he takes a sword, takes it out, cuts the wax sculpture of his dad in half, or the shoulders off, and then he leaves and doesn't say anything else. So, he walks out of the courtroom.
It's like, we will have more plot later.
Yeah.
He just regained his memory. There's a lot of things to think about.
Not his dad issues. He knows exactly what to do there.
And Susato says that when she first met her father when she was 6 years old, her father came back from England and told her that one of his friends died from sickness. And we now know that he was executed or shot after he was supposed to be executed, but it wasn't really.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, and he also introduced her to the dead guy's kid, who was older, and that's how she first knew Kazuma.
Yeah,
and that's why she became his judiciary assistant.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, that's all they tell you for this chapter. So, oh boy,
it's a lot of reveals, but it does end very abruptly.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like, and even though it took like 20 minutes after the trial was done to actually get through all this, like, it just ends on just like a real hard stop.
It's just not that it's weird because you kind of expected it, but it's also like it's just a little tough to like with the whole like. So you're not going to talk to like your best friend or anything that you've just met again after all this. He's just like, I need to think about things, which is like I get it, but also I don't know. I get it, but also I don't.
But also, like, does he have someplace else to be?
Yeah, right? Like, we're... Yeah. But all that said, I still really like this chapter. And it really stepped it up for...
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For, like, a chapter 3 of an Ace Attorney game, which is usually, like, the dog chapter or the chapter that doesn't really matter so much,
Yeah. It's not a great trial. Well, the beginning's much better than the end is, but it's a very good like chapter for like the overall story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Hairbrain still had nothing to do with it for like the majority of the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I liked it. I think it had a really interesting setup, like it was kind of an interesting thing to unwind. And yeah, like then Hairbrain's kind of falls away, but that's still like a pretty good conspiracy.
I think that there is a lot of good setup stuff, even trial stuff in the beginning. It's just like, and the investigation is an interesting one part too, which is sort of like the trial is not important at the end at all.
Right. I think it's like, I really respect where we started and where we ended up. Because you kind of expect a fun, not to do with the plot so much sort of trial, And then all of a sudden it's like, no, we're going to reveal a lot right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is like, whoa. And we got here from this fun little teleportation thing, Which, again, I guess is Shu Takumi's kind of thing. But, I liked it still.
Yeah.
I still don't know why Asman wanted to involve himself in Hairbrain's schemes. Like, I absolutely thought that was going to be an insurance fraud, like try to get away from the Reaper, fake your own death thing.
I think he wanted the money from the government. That's the only reason.
But like, why would he have gotten it? Because the experiment seemed like it was garbage. Like, why don't you back a real scientist that can get real grants?
Or why do you have to be in the thing?
That's weird.
Maybe that's why he put that clause in. Like, he's like, all right, if you want me to do it, you think it'll help, sell this to people, but, I don't know.
Well, clearly it was a bad move, so.
It was very clearly a bad move. Not a lot of good moves.
It doesn't really protect it. Like, from Osman's perspective, the clause doesn't protect him because if it goes wrong, he's dead. And if it goes wrong, there's no money anyway.
And it kind of can't go right, because if you're supposed to fake the teleportation, you should be appearing in Crystal Tower. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, he needs to be in on the magic trick, and there needs to be a tunnel or something for him to actually get there, But
you just have to run really, really, really fast.
Or, okay, wait, maybe that, I mean, obviously this is me just speculating. Maybe that is part of it. Like, maybe he's like, look, here's what we're going to do. I have a tunnel under Crystal Tower. Don't ask me how, but I do. So all you're going to have to do is run in there. Oh, whoops, you're just dead. Fuck it. I don't have to think about that part.
Yeah, I guess, really, now that I think about it, they just need to have, if someone shows up on the other side and, like, waves, like a relative, like a bad body double, but a good enough body double, then if Asman could run all the way over under a tunnel, he would get there before anyone could verify it. So, like,
yeah, for sure,
that's good enough. And I think this wasn't very well thought out from Asman's perspective.
No, right, yeah. No. I mean, also, I guess to be totally fair, for ludonarrative dissonance sake, like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you probably can't make this crazy as complicated as you would actually need to, or it'd be like an 8-part trial. Like, all right, and here's Johnny Mustache, and he doesn't look quite like a Mr. Osmond, so he can't be a double, but we turn out it doesn't matter because he's far away, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just like to say ludonarrative dissonance as if, But anyway, yeah. I still like the chapter.
Yeah, it was a really fun case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, despite the twists not having to do with, strictly speaking, our client, it was really fun to figure out. I felt like there were a good amount of reveals in the investigation and a good amount during the trial. So it was always had you on your toes.
For sure.
Except for Corn Girl.
Corn Girl. That was the worst part of anything. Corn Girl was absolutely the NFT of this episode.
Oh, God. Corn Girl could definitely be an NFT.
Yeah.
Not worth anyway. Visual Novel Book Club does not support NFTs. Anyway, so listen.
Don't funge corn. It's a bad idea.
No. But what's a good idea is tuning in next time. I do have a reading suggestion, but Oren, I don't know if you have one too.
No, I don't. I just see that this entire chapter has only 4 parts. So
4 parts. The next 2 both will have 4. Yep.
So I was thinking, if you don't know the layout of it, I found this investigation, or this chapter, was like moved at a pace I wasn't used to. So I would say, I think it's possible that you can read the first investigation and the first trial all the way through. You know what I mean by, like, when you get to the next investigation.
That's what because the structure of this chapter is the investigation, and then 2 parts of a trial, and then another investigation. So this is a weird chapter that ends in an investigation part.
Right. Which I haven't gotten to that part yet, but yeah.
So you're saying, and I agree, I think, so investigation and then the first part of the trial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, wait, I was saying the whole trial, because I thought second investigation was... I'll tell you, too, my reading for this got broken up a bit by a long trip, so my sense of scale might be off. I thought whole trial, but you think first half is better? I'll go with it if you have that.
Yeah, I think first half makes sense.
Let's just split it in half, yes.
Okay, let's do first half then. Yeah, it works for me then. All right, then, so up to the first save point in trial.
Yep.
And we will see you next time.